So should Washington stay out of school lunch menus, or do they need to be involved to protect children? This is our topic this half hour. We want to hear from you on our Fox 26 Facebook page. You can also weigh in on Twitter. Use the hashtag Fox26 for life. Joining us live in the newsroom is our Roundup panel, and it is led by our Fox 26 senior legal analyst, Chris Tridico. All right, so Chris, basically he's saying sugary snacks are allowed as long as they're approved by local school districts.
Right, and you know, like the piece said, like you just said, this was already the law in Texas. We didn't follow the federal guidelines when they came out in the first place. This is, I think, just a great way for him to call a press conference, it seems to me, and say something that would cause people to pay attention to him. It's another, not direct, but this time a veiled attack on Michelle Obama's initiative to put healthier food on the table for school lunches. Interestingly, though, I find it interesting that he is saying something that now is opposed to what Greg Abbott said 2 weeks ago, and that's that the state needs to have more control over these issues so that we have a cohesive policy across the state. We'll see how that plays out. Let me introduce our panel. Mustafa Tamiz, our political analyst, Jackie Bally, public policy analyst. Again, good morning. What about this? I mean, Texas wasn't following this anyway. He calls this press conference, says, I'm liberating the cupcake. And basically what he's saying is it's okay to put fattening food on the table at school.
Well, the agriculture position is a very powerful, very important position. It's a statewide elected office. The state faces drought. He didn't say anything about that. 51% of the kids nationally are in this free or reduced lunch program. 3 million kids in Texas are in the free reduced lunch program. Instead, he wants to talk about a cupcake while we're facing a national epidemic of child obesity. You know, sometimes we elect people that embarrass us, and this ag commissioner embarrasses us.
Does the state of Texas, if we're not going to follow the federal guidelines, does the state have an obligation to say something like Mustafa just said? We've got a national epidemic with childhood obesity and childhood childhood diabetes. Should the state be saying we're going to do something about this?
What I think he was just making a gesture saying, look, if you want to sell cupcakes, which is something that we did actually when I was in middle school for our Latin club, if you want to sell cupcakes, it's against federal policy. You can't even do that. So I think he was just making a gesture to explain, look, we need to have more local control, send the control back to the local districts. And I'm going to correct you on something you said. Governor-elect Abbott.
You're going to disagree with something else.
No, I'm going to correct you. Governor-elect Abbott has always said we need to have more control at the local level for the schools. He's also said he wants to put more money in the local districts, $1,500 per student, because he wants to. Education has been one of his key policies he's been talking about, and one of the ways to try to get us higher ranking in education, he's always said, was to give the local districts more control.
Well,
and I think Sid's comments are comparable to that as well.
So am I wrong about that? Is that not opposite of what Governor-elect Perry said? Abbott said?
I think both of you are right in the sense that up until the campaign, now Governor-elect Abbott has been saying local control, local control, local control. But when he first makes his policy speech as he's approaching the governorship, it's no longer about local control. It's about what he believes should be the policy.
But he never said
and
anything
that's been
about
his
school
pivot.
districts. He never said, he's never wavered on school districts. He's always said,
well, just give him time.
They
haven't gotten there yet.
No, and again, we discussed this last week.
Let's talk about something else. I don't want to debate an old topic, but really, I mean, shouldn't the state be stepping in and saying we have to do something to ensure that the children are getting healthy food?
I think the state needs to be stepping in and saying we need to educate our children, and that's what the governor's saying. That's what Sid's saying. Look, let's stop looking at all of these other things and let's focus on these students, making sure that they pass that we have a higher percentage of graduates, that they, Governor Abbott said by third grade he has a certain expectation that he'd like for all of our students to meet. That's what we should be focusing on, educating our students.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
We'll talk about that coming back. I want to go to Sally. She's monitoring our social media.
Okay, let's look at some of the tweets coming in on Twitter. This first one is from a Houstonian who writes a blog, The Lunch Tray. She says, nuttiest story. He wants to ply Texas kids with junk food in schools because, well, Who knows, she says. Texans Together say it's never a dull moment in Texas politics. Thank goodness it's safe for cupcakes. And then the Texas Parents Union says future history books will have to devote an entire chapter to the cupcake wars. I like that one.
I like that too, but with the State Board of Education, I don't think they'll ever approve that.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you final thoughts here.
Well, look, if you take a minute and think about what's being said, we want local control, local control, local control. That's been said over and over again. But then when the legislature starts to meet, Senator Patrick says, I want to give a tax cut. None of the property tax cut goes into the state.
Only the local.
Right? And the money is used for education locally. So they're willing to give a tax cut to money that they're not going to use and let the local people deal with the problems.
The state should not be controlling schedules, calendars, facilities management. That's what Governor
all the things
Abbott,
that don't matter.
That's what Governor Abbott is saying. That is what Sid Miller is saying. It is very cute gesture, and a lot of us agree. That's why we elected them.
I just don't want my
leave it right
agriculture
there.
commission to be cute.
We leave it right there. We'll be
effective.
back in the next hour with two really good topics.